Hey Scoriox team, I'm back. You guys have probably heard lots of news about the land sale that's coming up towards the end of this year, early next year. Things like how much land is being sold, how much it might cost. A lot of this is subject to change, so make sure you stay tuned for any further updates. But I've done a big update to my calculator to try and suss out the ROI of this sort of thing. And I'll be doing the RevDiz as well down the road, but you're definitely going to want to check this out. So let's jump into the video. Okay, so quick intro. Also, please like and subscribe down below. And I've been really appreciating all the support everyone's been giving me. I can't wait to get even bigger and really show you what I'm made of, okay? I've got lots of big plans for this channel and for Illuvium in general. Lots of stats and guides and things for when the game comes out, hopefully. So very excited to get into the thick of it. Let's dive into this one. So as you guys have probably heard, the the ROI numbers have come out, okay? We've got information on how much they might cost and how many is going to be in the sale. Now, a few really key takeaways from this are that there are a lot more T4s than most people probably expected. The same goes with T3s, but T1 and T2 seems pretty standard. It is going to mess around with some of my numbers a bit, so I'm definitely going to dive into that. It's some really interesting stuff. But I've gone through two major scenarios here, and I've looked at a bunch of different possibilities. Another key thing that I'm looking at is I have to do this from now on because the V2 staking and there's new RevDiz set up that they're looking at where you'll be able to gain SILV as revenue distribution. That means that more SIV will be entering the system after staking is finished. Okay, and this is a pretty big deal. This changes things a lot. Okay, so you definitely want to listen to what I have to say, and I'm going to talk about that more in another video. But you're going to want to be really aware that RevDiz might actually be a lot less in the future. But down the road, it's going to be way, way more. So it's going to work out in your favor in the end, but it does turn Illuvium a little bit more into a long-term play. But it has other connotations as well. It actually benefits people that want to play the game. The tokenomics before didn't actually do this that well, because if you claimed ILV and you wanted to use that on the game, you had to pay all the gas fees to swap that for Ethereum, right? So this actually works out in your favor more than not, but it does affect the investors that aren't really interested in playing the game. That being said, it will make it better for them to do scholarships. But again, another video. Sorry, I always do that. I get carried away on a topic. All right, let's jump into this one. So I've updated my calculator. You can see the back end and things are all pretty much the same. I haven't updated these numbers from last time, but it doesn't really affect the outcome of this video. I'll definitely have it updated very soon. It does take me a little while to get all these numbers fixed up. So you'll notice it's a little bit out of sync. It'll be really close though. It's generally about the percentages of tokens and their percentage of overall RevDiz rather than anything else. So it's pretty much the same. Okay. Now, it's going to be a lot to walk you through this one, guys. If anyone wants to see a more in-depth analysis of how I've calculated all of this, please leave a comment, but I'm going to try and keep it a bit simple. Make sure the video doesn't go too long and things like that, okay? Basically what I've done here, in this first one, I've looked at the cost per land and the revenue that each type of land, T1 through to T5, we should neglect T5 for the most part because as I've said before, it's very special. I've looked at the total revenue, total revenue for each land. Actually, that's what I've created. Sorry, the total percentage cost of each land. Okay, this is the total number of lands if they were all to be sold at their maximum price. For simplicity, I can change this down the road, but this will give you a starting point. So if I'm saying the ROI is 50% and the land sells for half the amount, then you know the ROI is 100%. Okay, if that doesn't make sense to anyone, let me know down in the comments below. Please like the video, I really appreciate it. Let's keep going. So the total percentage cost for each type of land. So if all the T1 sold and if everything's sold, the T1's cost would equal to about 14.3% of the entire sales cost. Okay. I've based the T5 land on $2 million because I know Kieran and Aaron want to start off the bidding at about 2 million. It'll probably be a lot higher. But in the grand scheme of things, this totals something like 700-800 million, which, I mean, 14 million from T5 land doesn't really compare to that. So it won't really make a difference unless they sell for like 100-200 million or something ridiculous. Okay. You don't have to worry about these figures on the right. These will just help me make my calculations. Some of the maths this time around was really difficult. Okay. So all I've done here is I've created parameters for the different types of sites on the land because we actually have this information. I'm sure you guys have seen it before, but I'll just show you now. T1 land, you have 3 element and 1 fuel site. T2, you have 6 and 3. 9 and 6 for T3, and 1 landmark, which is an element landmark. 1 fuel landmark for T4, 12 and 9 element fuel sites. And then for T5, you have 15 element sites and 12 fuel sites. And your landmark is some stadium thing. I don't even know how to factor in the maths to that. Okay, so you'll see these figures here. Now, honestly, these look completely out of proportion. So I'm going to show you another scenario where I've put them in my own proportion. But the reason I've set these up this way is because this helps the total revenue these lands bring in per land to equal the same as the total percentage cost. Okay, I've done that so that each land is proportionate to how much it costs in the overall land sale. I know it's a bit hard to understand. I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying. I really want to make this stuff simple as I can, but that's just why I've come up with those numbers, but they don't really make any sense. So until we get information on the sorts of numbers it would be for what an element and a fuel site are worth in relation to each other, we won't have these sorts of figures. Okay, it's a bit of a guessing game. But yeah, I've used this annual income for the same as the last video. It's just kind of the average of different major games. You guys can watch that video if you want to see it, but yeah, it's just the average. It's just pretty much an arbitrary income number. Honestly, I think it's quite conservative. But if that does double, then all these ROIs and things I'm about to show you do double. Okay, so it's just based on the annual income, which I think this is really fair. It's also about half of what Axie probably will get in a year. So take some of this. This stuff is all conservative if you ask me, okay? All right. These numbers. Wow, I went really overboard with that. I do not have the time to go through all these. There was one really interesting thing that came out with the IIP. The fuel has a chance to be worth 25% more or 25% less. So I've looked at the fuel price, so the income you get from your land for each kind of land at either extreme. In the T1 land, if all the land was released, it'd be $315 to $525. Okay. This second section. Now this goes for all of these, and you guys can pause the video and read all this. I don't have the time to go through it all, and I'm very tired. But simply put, the 20% land. Now, this is highly speculative, and I don't really think it's going to be the case. But no one's really mentioned if they plan on getting all the land out before the game drops. Okay? If the game drops, and only this first wave of land sale has happened, the ROIs change. They become 5 times the amount because you're supplying the same amount of fuel with 1/5 of the land. So just worth keeping in mind, if you think the land sales are just going to be the one before the game, getting in early is going to really pay off. Definitely worth considering. Okay, so I'm also going to start looking at these things. I won't go into them too much in depth here, but since SILV is possible and it doesn't generate revenue distribution, also it's spent separate to land revenue. I'll explain that in another video if you want as well. Wow, too many videos to do. Okay, I'm going to start calculating based on the current SILV claim rate, which is just the percentage of people that have claimed SILV over ILV at this stage. It's about 10-15% or so. And if they claimed 50%, if 50% of people claimed SILV, I doubt it would go beyond that, but it could. So be aware of that. But the more it goes beyond that, then the less time it will take for SILV to run out and ILV to be worth a lot of money. Let's put it that way. So these figures are the important ones, right? So for T1 land, at the top section is if all the land is released, and the next section is if 20%. And this is the ROI of the land, okay? You'd be getting 19% back. It seems small, but I'll go through another scenario in just a second. 19% back or 95% back. Again, if not all the land is released, definitely want to have some. But it will help you play the game too, and with mega cities and things, who knows what sort of boosts we're going to get. So this is all a bit hearsay until we have that sort of information. And I've upgraded the thing now, so definitely subscribe, because as soon as the games come out, I'll be able to get all that information, throw it in the calculator, and then we'll all have our answers of ROI and that sort of stuff. But because I've lined this up with the cost of the lands, the ROIs are actually pretty much the same across the board. If that were the case, no land would be worth more than another thing. These two things are the annual ILV ROI and ILV income, which is just these two numbers, but backwards for some reason. Sorry about that. But at this price, or at a price a few days ago, the annual ILV ROI on revenue distribution is about 29%. Okay, this doesn't factor in the SILV really, so probably a bit less than that. Maybe take off 10% of that, so it's about 26%. But yeah, so that's the comparison. ILV revenue distribution in this format, if they were earning about the same proportionately to their cost, ILV revenue distribution is the better choice at this stage, based on this maths, okay? Now, scenario 2. I'm going to be really quick with this one. It's all the same information, but I made this all relevant. So fuel site's worth twice as much as an element site. An element landmark doubles your production. A fuel landmark, should have based that off that. I'll fix that up later. And a fuel landmark triples your production. And then I just went kind of arbitrary with the stadium boost. But this means that the total revenue entering per land is still increasing. Okay. The top land is still the least amount of revenue, and so on. That's the benefit of using these figures up here. Means I can talk about kind of like it all scales properly. Okay, and this is the one you're waiting for. You're waiting for the ROI. If they were in a fashion that made sense to me, no idea if that's correct, probably not, but I'd like to think it's relevant. The ROI is you're gonna want to get a T1 or a T2. If we ignore T5 for now. And the other two don't seem all that great. But that being said, the T3 and T4, because of their landmarks, I suspect they're going to boost all your other lands. So you're still going to want to have them because they're going to boost the production of everything else. You might have a T4 with a landmark that's right next to 3 of your T1s, and it might double all their ROIs, which is going to make them worth it to have, especially if you're in a guild. Okay? So I hope this left you guys with some really interesting information. But I'm definitely going to be focusing on T1 and T2. T2 gives you a lot more freedom because it has a lot of different resources. So since I'm playing the game, T2 does make the most sense to me. But a T1 is going to be highly valuable, especially if you're in a guild and you're teaming up with that. All right, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. I stayed up all night to make it. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate all the support. And I'm hoping to release a few more this week on all the news and updating everything. It's going to be a long week, but I'm glad to be on this journey with everyone. See ya.